Today's topic is Graham versus Connor, the second prong analysis, the threat posed by the suspect. I'm Steve Serbalik, and I'm a panel attorney with ASCOPS in Arizona. This week's video dives into the threat posed by the suspect element of a Graham versus Connor analysis. If you missed it before watching this video, check out last week's video that talked about the first prong, the severity of the crime. Now that that's covered, today I'll talk about the impact of the threat posed by the suspect element in the use of force cases, a broad outline of threats that might justify using substantial force, and some tips to consider when articulating a use of force based upon this prong of Graham versus Connor. As always, please keep in mind that this is a general topic overview, not legal advice, and at the heart of Graham versus Connor is a totality of the circumstances analysis. So if you have questions about a specific incident, ask for help. So first, let's talk about why the threat posed by the suspect element matters in use of force cases. Generally speaking, courts recognize that officers are allowed to use substantial force in circumstances involving serious, violent crimes, and are allowed, and maybe even encouraged, to act to prevent serious harms to themselves or to members of the public. In other words, courts generally protect officers who act to address an immediate, identifiable threat to themselves or to other members of the public. This brings us to the broad categories that help define when substantial force may be appropriate. Generally speaking, a suspect armed with a deadly weapon who is behaving in a threatening manner may warrant the use of significant force. So next, let's talk about some tips to consider when articulating the immediate threat element of Graham versus Connor. In evaluating an officer's use of force, courts have repeatedly recognized that the circumstances that an officer might face can change in an instant, which means the officer's reasonable perception of an immediate threat can justify a use of force, even if the crime that brought the officer to the scene was minor, or if there was no underlying crime before the threatening behavior. This is because courts applying Graham versus Connor recognize that circumstances can rapidly change, and officers have a duty to act to address immediate threats. So every use of force is subject to a totality of the circumstances analysis, and a suspect posing an immediate threat to the safety of officers or others is a key factor in evaluating police uses of force. As always, if you're involved in a significant use of force, ask for help. Lawyers like me and organizations like ASCOPS are here to help. Just give us a call. In the next video, I'll talk about the third classic Graham versus Connor factor, whether the suspect is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. And in later videos, I'll discuss what the objective reasonableness standards mean, particularly as it relates to body cameras and video evidence. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button below and subscribe for more law enforcement lessons. In particular, check out next week's video on the third Graham factor, whether the suspect is actively resisting or attempting to evade arrest. I'm Steve Serbalik. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.